All right, welcome back, everybody. And we are on number 9.3.2, I believe.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Council. It's my pleasure this afternoon to present to you the project update for the MD Economic Development website project. The Municipal District of Bonnyville identified the need to update the economic development presence online. Thank you. During the completion of the 2020 Regional Economic Development Plan, as well as standalone economic development website was recognized as an action item in the adopted 2022 MD Business and Industry Growth Strategy and subsequently added to the department's 2024 business plan. Administration has now completed the website redevelopment in conjunction with our current website provider, Civic Plus, and is happy to present to Council today for information. The new economic development website is complete with its own domain, investmdbonnyville.com. This website provides enhanced visibility for economic development as a business unit of the MD dedicated to investment attraction. The new economic development website hosts the Community Economic Development Dashboard. The dashboard provides crucial one-stop information such as demographic, labor force, taxation, quality of life, real estate, transportation, utilities, and business environment data crucial to site selectors and developers. It also supports investment attraction through the provision of industry-specific profiles that highlight strengths of existing sectors such as energy, as well as targeted sectors such as protein and agriculture and technology. Reference to the strategic plan. A dedicated economic development website will help fulfill the MD's first goal in its 2023-2027 strategic plan, building a viable and diversified regional economy. And objective number 1, develop an economic development strategy inclusive of business retention, industrial attraction, retention, and the expansion while maintaining our rural influence. The cost of this funding or the funding source, development of the new economic development website is included in the 2024 operating budget. Communication strategy, marketing communications will provide social media support announcing the launch of the new economic development website. Administrator's recommended action is that Council accept the MD Economic Development website project update as information.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Scarson.
So is this a standalone website, or is this as on the MD's website, or how's that going to play?
So it was planned in such a way that the information is part of the MD website, but it also has its own separate domain, investmdbonnyville.com, so that site selectors that are specifically looking for that type of information would be searching in that manner, but also those that are not site selectors or involved in small business, or those folks that are looking for information about economic development can still find it at both our website, the main MD website, but it also has its own, what you would call, I guess, a landing page as investmdbonnyville.com.
And I guess, do you have like a rollout plan as far as how would I find this website?
Part of the process will include us updating our search engine optimization and making sure that we're using the right key points of information to attract through search engines, of course. And of course, through the communication strategy and social media, we'll be obviously launching the fact that we've got a new economic development site that's specifically focused as a business unit for investment attraction. So I hope I answered the question.
Yep.
Just looking for a motion.
Yeah, I got a question. I kind of looked at that website that you.
Oh, we can, sure.
I kind of looked at that website and I noticed one part there was the airport. I think you're kind of talking about the Valve Airport has a modern public terminal in it.
I'm sorry, Councillor Slipchuk, I couldn't hear.
Your microphone's not on. Don, your mic. Thank you.
The public airport meant the Cold Lake Airport mentions about having a modern public terminal. Is that, well,
Your mic on now.
So I think what you've asked me is, have we identified information about the Cold Lake Airport, and should it be modified? Is that correct?
well, I don't know if it's the Cold Lake one, or I understood it as it being the Bonneville one, the public terminal. And it's, you have on the airport, the MD of Bonneville is approximately 300 kilometers northeast. And then you mentioned about two main airports. And you're mentioning about a modern public airport.
Okay, so-
For its terminal.
Okay, so as a takeaway, Councillor Slipchuk, what I'll do is if we can have an offline chat, and then I can get the specific information, and I can clarify it, and then I can modify it if it's needed.
We'll discuss
If
that.
that's fine with you? All right. If you could go to site selection, please? I don't, and if you could go to learn more about investing in the MD. Okay. So in fact, this particular economic development dashboard is a tool that we'll be using for the site selectors, and it's not quite sized right, so I apologize for not being prepared for this in advance. But if we can move to the left and look at the drop-down menu, please. So what you'll see there at that drop-down menu, and we'll just highlight this briefly, if you could click on demographics for me, and this will give you an idea of how the rest of the information will be presented on this particular dashboard. So if you scroll down, what you'll see is information about age, gender, marital status, household income, visible minorities, and information that site selectors use to help build their business cases. If you were to kindly go to labor force for me as well, what you'll see is it'll identify our employment rates, our unemployment rates, and our participation rates by worker class and by labor force occupation. And these are all crucial pieces of information when individuals are building business plans to understand if there's a strong enough labor force to support whatever particular project they're doing. You'll also see, and I won't ask you to go to these sections, I will just do a brief review. With real estate, it would talk about the cost of housing, and there would be comparisons between not only different size of dwellings, but our community, the cost of those same houses across the country and in other jurisdictions such as the City of Cold Lake, the Town of Bonnyville, and Lac La Biche as an example for comparisons. Also with transportation, it will talk about those commuting rates and destination for workers that are employed inside our area but are living elsewhere. Education is also very important, as it will talk to the levels of individuals, whether they're college graduates or if they have apprenticeship program certifications, and as well talks about utilities and the cost of our utilities. And very important as well is our companies, which would tell people in a comparison, if you're doing an industrial or commercial gap analysis, it would tell you how many companies in each sector are in our region and how many employees they have in each of those particular sectors as an average. So it really helps those folks that are looking to either relocate a business or start a business here, what their expectations are to find a labor force to fit their particular business business plan that they were building. So the site itself, if we could go back to the main site, you'll see, and thank you so very much, whoever's helping me. If you were to go back to industry, yep. So what you'll see is sections. There's a sizing issue here, and I apologize, we'll have that taken. Oh, there we go. So you'll see doing business here, industry, site selection, community profile, lifestyle, and newsletter. Those are all important components that site selectors are looking for. If you could click on newsletter for me, that would be great. What you'll see at the newsletter section there is a copy or version of our last newsletter that goes out to over 180 businesses here within the MD and outside the MD, including site selectors and government agency supports like Invest Canada and Invest Alberta. This particular newsletter will talk about new activities and different programs that we're involved with and statistics that support economic development as well. You'll see in there links to different grants and programs that specifically target either labor force development, training, or industry sector incentives around oil and natural gas and new energy. So again, the main focus you see consistently is industry information, site selection information, our community profile, and lifestyle information. Would you have any questions about the website at this point in time?
Go ahead, Councilor Dave.
So on your, when you drop down in the Dropbox that says townfolio.ca, there's a login part of it, and what is that for?
Okay, so eventually over time, as we grow out that portfolio, what we'll have is specific studies and information. And so if you're providing too much information to the public, what happens is I don't have an opportunity to close that deal. They come and take the information away. I don't know who they are. They haven't had to ask for it. And then I never get a lead generated out of it. If we have important information that's there and they log in and they ask for that information, then they register, I provide them with that information, and then I have an opportunity to follow up as a lead so that if they've asked for, let's say, we're going to be going into a commercial industrial gap analysis and a economic impact assessment for the airport. If those two pieces of information are crucial, they'll be hosted there. People will have to log in, and once they do, then I'll be able to chat with them and say, why did you request that information? Can I set up a meeting with you, and can we talk about you doing business in the MD of Bonnyville, right? So that's the main focus of that particular function. As we don't have a lot of those reports right now, and this is a brand new sort of launch, you won't see anything there at this point in time.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, just looking for a motion then.
I'll make the motion, we accept this as information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Slipchuk, for moving that council accepts the Economic Development Website Project as update as information. Any
Thank you.
discussion on the motion?
Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried, thank you. We'll move on to 9.3.3, Municipal Grant Programs Review.
The MD of Bonnyville has been providing community grants, contributions, and donations to individuals and organizations for many, many years within the boundaries of the municipality. During the 2024 budget deliberations process, Council directed administration to bring the current community giving programs and their associated policies to a future meeting of Council to review for potential streamlining and enhancements. As reinforced in our adopted 2021 Recreation Master Plan, the MD is committed to supporting community associations, organizations, and societies with funding for events, programs, and capital projects that provide MD residents an opportunity to engage through recreation and cultural activities in our community. The MD currently provides the following options for persons and groups requesting financial support with a total annual budget in 2024 of approximately $800,000. We have our donations and sponsorship recognition policy, our community action grant policy, our community association operating grant policy, our delegations to council policy, and our pending scholarship program which is coming to council here next month. Attached are the following for council's review and discussion. In Appendix A, there's our current community giving policies. In Appendix B, we have certain excerpts from our 2021 MD Recreation Master Plan that are the areas that provide us with guidance to community funding and support. Appendix C is a summary of our financial community givings that was provided in 2023. And in Appendix D is just some discussion points, should council wish to provide a bit more feedback to us on where we should shift our priorities if we want to do that. Reference to our strategic plan, it was referencing our guiding principle of we value quality of life in our community. Goal number 3 of promoting community development. Cost and source of funding. So as mentioned, our current 2024 operating budget is $800,000 amongst those 4 areas. Other 2024 operating budget community contribution areas, I just wanted to bring this to council's attention as well, is outside of our grants. We do provide $50,000 through our seniors transportation grant funding. We also have a budget of $25,000 for fire loss assistance through that grant program. We also provide over $500,000 to the Bonnyville FCSS and Cold Lake FCSS, which is offset somewhat by our annual provincial grant of $400,000. We also provide $421,000 approximately to the Bonnyville Municipal Library, Cold Lake Libraries, and the Northern Lights Library System. So in total, our 2024 community giving budget is approximately $1.8 million, with $800,000 of that going through grants and donations. Overall, administration's recommended action, given the feedback from council and the community, is that council directs administration to create one community grant policy that utilizes an evaluation protocol based on the 5 service delivery goals that are provided in our 2021 MD Recreation Master Plan, and allows for one intake and evaluation process by council of all requests over an identified maximum value prior to annual municipal budget deliberations. So just to unpack that a little bit, what it is if we're trying to minimize the paperwork in the process, we are suggesting to host a multi-day, or however, depending on how many requests we get in, before budget deliberations, where these community groups can present their asks directly to council, and council can decide during budget deliberations which of those move forward. Our recommendation is also to do this for a certain value, not to do it for, say, for a $2,000 ask or a $1,000 ask, but establish a maximum value for when those requests come to that deliberation process. That being said, I'm leaving it open for council's discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Reeve. I just have a question. On Community Operating Grant Policy Program, there's $500,000. Excuse me. So if all the halls and other communities were to receive their maximum, what would the total of that be?
In our current Community Association Operating Grant program, if they all applied and all were successful in their application and met all the criteria, it would be a total amount of $695,000.
So,
Our current
yeah.
budget is $500,000.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, do you think we should top that up maybe to like 600,000? What if we run short of money in that program? Then what?
Through the chair, as we seen last year during the Community Association Operating Grant evaluations, our budget was somewhat short of the requests that were eligible to receive the funding.
CAO?
Yep, thank you, Deputy Reeve. Correcting to all of council, I think the questions that we're trying to ask today, and certainly council can add, subtract any amount that they would like at council's discretion to the current grant program. One of our goals is to try to have an annual intake so that it can go to budget deliberation, so that when we're doing budget, we know exactly what our grants will be for the following year, and to eliminate the grants that come post budget, post mill rate, that are not really accurately reflected, because at that point they've got to come out of reserves, so it doesn't really accurately reflect it in the tax rate, those particular grants that happen afterwards. Council could at that time at budget deliberation look at all the requests that come in and make that number 500, 600, 700, 900, $1 million, whatever number council would like. We're trying to focus on what the process would be, so we can have that included as part of budget deliberation, and to avoid the multiple requests that come throughout the year that could all come at one time. Administration has to come once a year to council with our requests in terms of how we operate the municipality. We're suggesting that many of these community groups could do the same, look ahead to what they're going to need for the following year, and come and present directly to council over a 1, 2, maybe a 3-day, whatever that might be, a special council meeting. And then from there, those numbers could be plugged directly into the budget, as opposed to what we do. Our current process is they typically either come out of the Community Action Grant Fund, or if that fund is oversubscribed, then they come out of reserves, or council makes a motion to take money from some other funding source. But to Councilor Kreviak's question, council could absolutely raise the amount to any number the council would like. That is entirely council's purview to do that.
Through the chair, I would also point out that quantity-wise, we process over 200 applications a year. It's quite a large process. Even last year, with us providing over $1 million in grants, sponsorships, and donations for a municipality, that is very significant. I also know that, again, going back to our recreation master plan, we've already identified through that what are our key focus areas. Those 5 service delivery goals: personnel health and wellness. That's what we're about. We're about community connectiveness and appeal. We're about financial sustainability, environmental sustainability, and economic vibrancy. A lot of our program, especially our community operating grant program, was redesigned or revamped to meet those outcomes. That's why we incorporated the need to do a business plan. They needed to do a sustainability business plan. We spent a year and a half coaching community groups. What is that? How do we do that? That actually was straight out of our recreation master plan for us to help them as much as we can, empower them to be more sustainable user groups. The next item on the agenda, focusing on community hall, this community hall special meeting, the reason that they're asking for this information or for this opportunity is they're getting a lot of volunteer burnout. It's always a very small number of people that are doing everything. So they're having a lot of sustainability issues, and not necessarily, money is not always the right response to that. So it's just one component of it. So I just wanted to point out that this is something that council has actually looked at back in 2021. And by focusing it in and maybe making it a little bit simpler on the grant application process, maybe that would assist a bit. But I can tell you, if we keep things status quo, I will be looking at, from an operational perspective, potentially some sort of grant portal system, just with the 200 plus applications that we do get. Even if we still maintain these smaller asks throughout the year in the current model that we have in framework, it would be something that we would be looking at from administration's point of view. So it is a lot. We do accomplish a lot. Council provides a lot to this community.
Okay, just, wait, Counselor Sipchak?
So you mentioned currently you have 200, you do about 200 applications a year. So if we go this route, what would reduce those application numbers then, or?
Through the chair, yes, I believe it would. We would see, I would say about 60 or 70 of those be potentially funneled through this delegation process, the direct delegation process. We'll probably see some of those requests reduce because of some people may choose not to apply. Some people, it's really hard to say until we get through it, but I would assume that our number of requests would go down a bit, and it would be more of a processing once a year step thing instead of as we have it across the year right now.
And the people that come directly, you figure it would make it easier even for on them for coming for the money and doing it prior to pre-budget?
Through the chair, yes, I believe it would. They'd feel more directly heard and considered.
Well, I think we got nothing wrong with trying to change it, see if it's going to make things easier, and we've discussed it before quite substantially about all this stuff, and I'll make a motion that we go forward at option 1.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor Sipchak, for moving that council directs administration to create one community grant policy that utilizes an evaluation protocol based on the 5 service delivery goals provided for in the 2021 MD Recreation Master Plan, and allows for one intake and evaluation process by council of all requests over an identified maximum value prior to annual municipal budget deliberations. Any discussion on the motion? Yeah. Counselor Fadea?
Yeah, excuse me, my question is I guess the communication end of it, how we're gonna let these people know, and so they're, we've been on this process for a while, and people are still missing the point of how applying, so this is gonna be new. How are we gonna get this message across to them, is my big question.
Through the chair, I, somewhat like we did with the previous round, it would be a lot of direct contact and notifications to these community groups. Just in the past year and a bit, now that we have our coordinator focused on programming within the community, located at our VIC office, she's managed to create a bit of a newsletter process or to these community groups, which we've utilized a few times now to let them know about potential training and funding sources outside of the MD, that sort of thing. So we would be using that. We'd also use our usual rural review, as well as, like I said, directly contacting them and notifying them as much as possible.
I'm a fan of the one-time application. I know I've heard a lot of feedback to where they're like, well, the first intake is full. Now we have to wait for the second one. Some people are kind of unsure of if they're approved or not until all these other things come into play. This kind of takes that out of the equation, and I think it's definitely a positive thing. And I think just as long as we get the message across.
Yes.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. We'll go on to 9.3.4, Community Hall Meeting Request.
Following the review of a request received from the Fort Kent Community Center at last week's, 2 weeks ago actually, our last regular meeting of council, Administration was directed to determine a date and time option for council's consideration. Administration is bringing this request back to council today for consideration. Our recommendation is to hold a special meeting of council at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 18th in council chambers. Delegation times will be scheduled for each community hall representative present to address council if they choose. Administration could also provide a brief information report on our available grant policies, funding summaries over the last few years, and on our community hall insurance program. Attached for council's reference and consideration is the initial meeting request we received in Appendix A. Communication strategy, the community group will be informed in writing of the decision of council today. I did go back and forth with the original submitter of this request, and they tentatively have agreed with this date and time. Administration's recommended action is that council directs administration to schedule a special meeting of council on Tuesday, June 18th at 6 p.m. in council chambers. I was just going to make a little modification here. Special meeting of council for the purpose of hearing delegations from community halls to be held on Tuesday, June 18th, commencing at 6 p.m. Does that sound right?
Quick question. Did they, like, I know there was a request to have it at a community hall, which was big enough for all the hall boards to be present, as opposed to in here. Did that get discussed with them or not?
Through the chair. We did recommend holding it here in case council wants to, just with the technical requirements, depending on if you want it to be fully available on our Facebook page or not, or if it would not be a recorded session. It was at your discretion. So we had suggested here, and there was no negative feedback about that. I understand that they're still in the process of even determining how many or who they've invited to this.
Well, I would hope all of the community halls would be invited, not just a few select ones. Would be my hope anyways.
I think the question was how many people from each hall was going to come up, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, CO.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. Directly to your question, I think the other reason for holding it here would be some of the IT. If there are requests for other things that could go up, computer records or spreadsheets or whatever, maybe, but I had no idea what might come up that evening, but it would be very difficult to do that at a community hall. We simply wouldn't know what to bring in terms of what questions may get asked. So it would be much easier to hold it here for that purpose. In terms of reaching out, I just some clarity on your point about reaching out. Is that our expectation? Because we didn't ask or request this meeting. That was their request to have this meeting. So is just some clarity, is the expectation from council, the administration will contact all of the halls, or that the lead hall who requested this meeting would be responsible for that?
Good question. I don't know who'd be responsible. I just hope they would all be contacted and get invited. I assume we have a list of the contacts for all of the community hall operating. We got a list of the ones that qualify for the grant, right? So if we could just even send an email saying that when the meeting's happening, if they want to book in for a delegation, you see there's time frames, then everybody can book, and that way no hall is left out, and we can get. That'd be my recommendation.
Through the chair, so at this point, when the request first came in, I did let Mr. Dupenville know, because they were taking the initiative on that, so I
Okay.
did direct him to our listing on our website of all of our community halls and community groups. However, at the same time, with this now becoming a special meeting of council, we could formalize it up a bit, send out the official notice of a special meeting of council to all the halls specifically, and go from there.
Yes.
However you'd like to do it.
Okay. Well, just looking for a motion, I guess, and if we could go ahead with this, then I think that would be a good idea. Yeah. Thank you, Counselor. As a motion? Yeah. Thank you, Counselor Kriviak, for making a motion to direct, sorry. Yeah, that directs administration to schedule a special meeting of council on Tuesday, June 18th at 6 PM in council chambers. I've got
So-
double on my screen here. I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to read.
Through the chair, actually, we did modify it just to put in the purpose of the meeting,
Okay.
which is for the purpose of hearing delegations from community halls.
Okay. Okay,
So then there will be like one or two people from each hall?
If that's how we'd like to do it, yes.
Otherwise, there'll be no room here for 100 people.
Currently, just to confirm, we have societies or organizations with halls specifically. We have 18 on our community association operating grant list. That includes ag societies. 19, including the Glendon Ag Society. So it'll be about 20 organizations. If we want to extend it as well to the urban senior centers, then there would be 23.
CAO?
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. Again, this wasn't an initiative of the MD, this was an initiative of the halls themselves. Second to that, I would ask is what, if council votes to have the special committee or the special council meeting, what, other than meeting with members of the community halls who will receive significant funding at this point, what's the objective? What are we trying to gain from this? Just information? And again, it's not our initiative, but it was requested by the Fort Kent Hall. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what the expectations of staff are for this, because this is an extra meeting in an evening, and I'm getting a sense now that we're going to be reaching out to everybody to tell them there's going to be a meeting. So I'm just curious as to, the Fort Kent Hall initiated this. Are we taking this over, I guess is really my question.
Did they change their meeting date that they had originally planned? Like, are they still in their own little meeting there or whatever?
Through the chair, so they requested a rural hall meeting on June 5th. And it was specifically to invite our council to attend and discuss those main options that they highlight in their letter.
So
Did that
did
meeting
they-
happen? No, they've postponed that pending our discussion and
They did
decision
postpone
today.
it? They told you that? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it should just be inviting just our halls, not the other people you mentioned as well. What's your,
Well, like, the only reason why we were doing this is because Al said that we weren't allowed to go, so I would have just went to this Fort Kent meeting and sat and listened, but,
Yeah.
so now I guess we're doing it because we've told we can only do it here as a special meeting, so I guess if we're gonna do it, we have to do it like this, but if we don't wanna do it, then we don't do it, right, so.
Through the deputy, Reeve, to be clear, you could have a special council meeting at any hall. We could rent the auditorium at the C2 Center. It could be a special council meeting. We're only recommending chambers because of our IT capability. That's the number one reason. We certainly could have a special council meeting at any location the council would like, and that you could have several hundred people attend. We do have some restrictions when we go outside the MD office in terms of how IT would work, what our access to our records and our computers and, and our data would be. But we could certainly do it at any other place the council wanted to.
Yeah, I understand that, but the point is that you said now we gotta call these halls. Well, if we're gonna have a special meeting, then we should be reaching out to all the halls and saying, listen, this is what we're planning. If you wanna meet with us, this is how we're gonna do it, right? So you don't just say, we're gonna have a special meeting and hope that people show up, right?
I mean, just like we see this on a regular basis where the Glendon Ag Society comes in and books in delegation if they want to talk. They present their case, do their thing. I don't know why this is different. If a different hall wants to present their case, they should just book a delegation, just like Glen and Ag Society does, and they present. I don't understand why it's different.
If we're gonna go forward with this, well, it's made the motion, but if we're gonna go forward with it, then, it's not like, they're the ones that request it, let them come, and whoever shows up, shows up. We don't even know what's about. Let's just hear them out, and that's it, and we'll go from there. We're not gonna be making no decisions here. Like,
And I do get the evening part of it.
and if they go
yeah.
want some special information, like we were advised by administration, all the information's here. We wouldn't know what to pack to all. I'd just say, but like Councilor Fidel said, like, why can't they just bring a delegation and just talk? But
Well, I don't think that any of them have requested that we have a special meeting for them, right? I mean, they invited us to a meeting, we said we couldn't go, and then we decided that we wanted to have a special meeting after that, so I guess we gotta decide if that's the road we wanna take or not. I don't think has anyone requested to you that they want a special meeting here with council?
Through the chair, no, they've requested all of council attend a meeting that they would invite all the other community halls to come to so that they could discuss with council those items that they've highlighted, specifically community involvement, how to address the lack thereof, insurance, grants, and securities is very general topics. I would just throw out a word of caution that, given recent public engagement session responses, I would just throw out a word of caution.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go ahead with this, just have one person representing each hall. One or two people max, not a whole, you know. Otherwise, there's no room here for 500 people.
If we have 20 halls and even 3 people came, that's 60 people. But I don't think 3 will come from every hall.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe, who knows?
The other thing I will point out is that this is one hall's request at this point. We have not heard the same request from any other community hall.
Okay,
Okay, I think it's just whoever shows up, and
okay.
yeah, I think just go forward, let's vote on it. Whoever shows up, and I don't think we don't need to be reaching out to all the halls and telling them to come. They're the ones that requested the meeting. Let's go.
Well, they actually didn't request a special meeting, so they invited us to one of theirs.
Yeah. Okay, any last discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to 9.4.1, unaudited financial statements.
Good afternoon, Deputy Reeve and Council.
Yeah.
I'm here to present the first quarter unaudited financial statements. The purpose of this report is to present Council with financial results for the first quarter ending March 31st, 2024. Regular quarterly financial reporting provides Council with a required financial information to make informed business decisions and assisting in meeting Council's responsibility to the community, as well as adhering to the CAO's legislated responsibility to inform Council. Attached for Council's review is Appendix A, which is the Statement of Operations, which I had to give an updated report this morning because we had some errors on the one that was in the package. So that one is the actuals versus budget. Appendix B is the Statement of Financial Position. That is our assets over liabilities. Appendix C is the Schedule of Reserves. That is showing that we have $83 million, and of course, all of the reserves are listed there with the available funding to be utilized. Appendix D is the Investment Continuity Schedule. And then Appendix E is our capital projects, the 2024 listing. Most of these, the majority of them are the carry forwards from 2023. We have been notified of a few of these so far now that have been completed. We're just waiting for some paperwork so we can move them over to the tangible capital assets. And 2024, we've just got a few of them on there. Most of them have zeros beside them because we haven't had any activity in them as of yet. Administration's recommended action is that council accepts the unaudited financials reports for the 2024 first quarter ending March 31st, 2024 as information.
All right, thank you. Looking for a motion, or if anyone has questions, feel free to ask. You
Make
did
a-
such a good job, everyone's speechless.
Probably went too
Counselor
quickly.
Subcheck and then Counselor Scarson.
I'll make a motion to
Okay,
accept this.
we'll just get yours after the motion then. Thank you, Counselor Subcheck, for moving that council accepts the unaudited financial statements report for 2024 first quarter ending March 31st, 2024 as information. Okay, and Counselor Scarson, you had something?
So on Appendix E, are all these projects completed? Is that what it is, or where are they at various stages?
No, the status of these ones, they're all active. Some of them, we did get notification that a few of these, like I have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are, have been notified to us that they're completed. We're waiting for the proper documentation to come in so that we can actually get them moved over to tangible capital assets. So this report will change going into quarter 2. We'll have more 2024 projects coming on board, and then those ones that are, we get the proper documentation in will be removed.
Like I guess it might be nice to know just stages of each as to whether or not they're over or under budget, right?
All of these are within budget, so the budget dollar amount that we have on the side, and then there's variances. I don't see any of them here that have any negatives. If they
Yeah,
were
but
in-
it might be at 1% of the project or 100%, right?
Oh,
I don't know.
got it. So what you're requiring is maybe a status, like a percentage of how that project, if where it's completed.
Like if you're 50% through, but you spend 70% of the money, I mean, it's just good to know, right?
Okay, I can reach out to the project leads and for all of these, and next time have that on the report. So it gives you a bit of an idea of where the projects are sitting and what percentage of completion they're at. I don't have that with me today. I would have to
Yeah,
reach
that's
out to the
fine.
project leads.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Everyone's ready?
There's a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
Mr.
Quebec.
Deputy Reeve. So we have investments of 96 million and reserves of 83 million? That's what you're saying?
That's correct, yes. So we have more money in investments than we, so all of our reserves are, have been put into investments. And then some, like we have some extra money in investments as well.
Yeah. So it's not, there's not two pods, there's not like.
It's not two pots,
Yeah,
no.
it's, yeah, okay. Just to clarify.
Definitely not. I wish it was,
Would be
but
nice.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Two
Yeah.
pots. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
All right, any last discussion?
I'm sorry, I missed
Yeah.
that. What do you mean? There's two, you said there's two pots.
No, there's not two pots.
So what are you saying here? So there's 96 million in investment,
That's correct.
and then there's another 83 million?
No, the $83
Oh.
million is the reserves. So we have right now $83 million in the reserves, and out of that, our reserves are put into investments, but we have $96 million in investments right now. So that's covering the reserves as well as extra. Yeah, in cash, yeah.
So
Cash
the
in hand.
difference of the 13 million or whatever is just cash?
Yeah, it's cash in hand.
Well, so that's not cash flow then, right?
It could be used and put into cash flow, yes, if it's needed.
So I guess I'm just curious why isn't it listed on here as a line item somewhere?
Maybe you want to answer that one
You
then?
bet,
Yeah.
you bet. So the investment strategy that we're currently using is to invest every spare dollar that the MD has to gain interest. So what we do is if, instead of keeping money in our bank account, in our operating bank account, we invest it as well. So we invest all of the reserve funds, plus we invest any excess cash on hand that we don't need for cash flow purposes in the near term. And as we do need those funds, and you'll see later on in the year as the construction season gears up, that investment account will be going down. We'll deplete that in order to pay the MD's bills. But in the interim, when we do have money sitting there, just sitting there in our bank account, we invest it to get a better rate of interest.
So then if the investment account is at 96 million, and your cash flows are at 22 million, so basically that 13 million and change is basically your operating funds, more or less? Is that how you would describe it?
It would be money that we have pulled out of the cash in bank. And so if we didn't do that, there'd be $13 extra million sitting in the bank account.
So then, now when you say depleted,
Sorry.
where will that 96 roughly be at the end of the year, let's say?
Through the chair, sorry, I keep forgetting to say that. Through the chair, so at the end of last year, I think we had 106 or 109 million sitting in investments. Once property tax payments are in for the year, then we have those additional funds. So we'll invest as much of that as we possibly can, within our cash flow requirements for the year. And so you'll see that number go back up again at the end of the year. It'll end up
Oh, so it's as
100
low
million.
now as it probably will be at any time of the year.
Pardon me?
It's as low now as it will be at any time of the year?
Through the chair, no, because property taxes aren't due until September 15th. Until September 15th. It's also, this is we're moving into our main spending season where construction projects, we have to pay contractors and progress payments on the different capital projects that we're running. So it'll get lower than that. You'll see Q2 will come down more, and then Q3 it might level out, and then Q4 it'll go up again.
Okay, but you won't ever be below the number that's allocated to reserve funds, though?
We may, through the chair, we may, depending on how much funding our capital projects took from reserves. So there are some capital projects that are funded from reserve. And so if that's the case, then the reserve fund balance will go down as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you. So some of these
Yeah, sure does. Thank you.
Some of these investments are short-term? They have to be, right? Some of them are
Some of them are
short-term?
short-term, yes.
Like 30 days, 90 days?
We have 60-day and 90-day demand notices, and then we also have within the year where we can actually withdraw the money if needed be.
And what are the rates we're getting on the 60 and 90 day? Like 5%?
Sorry. So, of the rates that
Sorry.
we're getting,
Right around 5% through the
Okay.
chair, it's right around 5%.
because it has changed.
Some of these investments are really long-term, and I think the largest return is sitting at 10% right now.
So how long is that term? Like a year or?
It's about 10 years.
Oh, 10 years.
And these are all callable investments. If we need the funds, we can cash them in.
They're not locked in.
They're not locked in for 10 years. It's just that to gain that very attractive interest rate,
Yeah.
that was the term we had to invest at. But it's a callable investment, so you can call it back in.
So there's no limit on how much you can withdraw. You can withdraw the whole thing if you want.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote then.
Sorry, I have one more question I just noticed.
Okay,
here,
go
actually,
ahead.
Is, back to Appendix E, capital projects. So at what point do you, like, let's say if one of these projects was canceled or, at what point do you say, okay, this one's done, it's coming off the books?
As soon as we get notification from the general manager or the project lead and that it's been canceled or put delayed, what we do is we'll ask if it's going to be carried forward into the next year. If it's not, then we have to take it off of here. So if it doesn't meet the criteria of being a tangible capital asset, we have to expend it, put it through expenditure for the year. And we've have had that happen in the past, where projects have been canceled and they just don't meet the criteria of being a capital
Well,
asset anymore.
because I just noticed one here that I thought was canceled quite a while ago, but maybe not, is the Crane Lake Storm Master Plan. Is that still a project that's on the go?
Let me just mark that one down, and I'll have to get some information on that one. Crane Lake. And that's the storm plan you said. Okay, I'll get some extra information on that one, and I'll see if it's been canceled and should be removed off of the listing here.
Yep.
And like I said, I'll reach out to the project leads, and we'll get a status, kind of a percentage of status of completion for all of these projects. So you guys will have a little bit more details going forward.
Yeah, and then even some that are like, maybe there's a last bill that's, like, some of them seem like they're kind of been on here for a while. I don't know if they're just waiting for a bill to be paid or.
Yeah, some of these, what it is 2023, all the invoices weren't in quite yet, so it had to be carried forward into 2024 because that's when we're going to be making the expenditure. So the 5 of them that I do have notification right now that they're completed, we were just waiting for that, those invoices to come through so we could get them paid, and then we just have to wait for the proper documentation to close them up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
These aren't all in Ward 4, are they?
They're not all 2024. The majority of them are from 2023 and
No.
carried forward.
Sorry. I says they're not all in Ward 4.
Oh. No.
All right, we'll move on to,
Okay.
thank you very much. We'll move on to 9.5.
You corrected them like I would have corrected them too, so.
9.5.1, first quarterly report.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve, members of council. At this time, I'd ask Ms. Waslow to come forward with the marketing communications report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
In front of you, you'll find our first quarter report for January to March 2024. There is a lot of detail in there, so I'm just going to touch on a few things. During this time, we completed the 2024 Adventure Guide mail-out. We saw this year an increased mailing. We expected to mail out 13,000 locally, which includes St. Paul, but it actually went up to 14,000 this year, so we are now looking at doing a reprint because we are short in guides for our VICs across the province. We collaborated with HR and the GIS tech on a new portal on the MD website for seasonal staff. And further into my report, you can see that our top posts on Meta, which is Instagram and Facebook together, 2 of those posts were, 2 of our top 5 posts for that time were for seasonal job ads. And as well for our website, one of our top visited page during that January to March period was our job portal with over 23,000 visits, which is big for that time of the year. We're usually a little further into the year before we start seeing those numbers on the job portal side. We conducted a late winter campaign this year, letting residents know that if they have shut off their flyers services for Canada Post, that they were missing out on MD publications, including that drought assistance card that you can see at the bottom of the screen there, our Rural Review newsletter, and the Guide to Rural Living that we've recently produced as well. That seemed to be a successful campaign. We had to increase our print numbers of our newsletters by 200 to meet the demand, the mailing demand, and we've also had people signing up for the digital version of the newsletter to be sent straight to their email as well when it's completed. Again, with the social media, we saw almost a 29% increase in Facebook reach during that period over the last quarter. Our top 5 posts kind of correlate to some of Inspector Skinner's numbers for her dog complaints. Our top post was about asking people not to pick up stray dogs off the side of the road, as they might be close to their property, and if they need somebody to come and look after a dog who is in distress, to give public safety a call. So we saw that there. And rounding that out was the annual shelter belt sale. We had a pretty good response to our social posts for that. Kind of going back to website metrics, our page views were up to 92,000 with over almost 28,000 users. This is the first year that Google Analytics 4 is actually working properly, hopefully. So we're thinking that these numbers are pretty accurate. I just received an email that they're changing it again. Don't know what it is, but hopefully we'll get some steady numbers going. That is all I have for you. Do you have any questions?
Good job, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good
Robin?
afternoon, Council.
Good
I'll be
afternoon.
presenting the first quarterly report for the Customer Service Department. During the first quarter, we touched 376 batches. For the number of calls we received at the actual front desk was 1,221. We had over 4,080 calls answered by our automated phone service that was implemented in quarter 4. Seems to be a great success. We've heard great things, and people are still able to reach our front staff should they have any other questions that they don't find on that list. We've had roughly 561 walk-ins during that time, and we hosted the RMA District 5 meeting at the Fort Kent Community Hall. We've assumed responsibility for managing the admin building office supplies. We've had members of our team complete emergency management training to up to ICS 200 and complete level 1 scribe training. And we've also implemented bi-weekly team meetings. And that's it.
Right on. Any questions for Robin? Okay, good job.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'll try to kind of peruse through mine as well a little bit. So this report is for first quarter 2024 for Legislative and Information Services. So our team prepared agenda packages and provided secretariat support for 5 regular meetings of council and 2 committee of the whole meetings. For these 7 meetings, we also coordinated a total of 10 public hearings and delegations to council. For bylaws, there were 3 bylaws in draft and still under review by their respective departments for future consideration by council, and 6 bylaws which were finalized and pending either first reading or second and third reading. 5 bylaws were passed during the first quarter. For policies, there were 13 new and 18 existing policies in draft or under review by the departments. And council passed 3 new and 3 amending policies, as well as approved rescinding 1 policy. Additionally, 1 administrative policy was adopted by the CAO for the records management program, and that was following council's passing of the new bylaw back in March. So at the end of the first quarter, there are still 2 policies pending review by administration that are due for review. Other things for our department, our records management coordinator started phase 2 of our records management program, which included the new bylaw, which was passed by council, as well as the new administrative policy adopted by the CAO. And we have started and are in the process of meetings with a few various different departments to migrate their records to the new system. Based on council direction at the February 13th regular meeting of council, we have also reached out to neighboring municipalities for anyone interested in joining the MD and Summer Village of Pelican Narrows in a joint assessment review board and intermunicipal subdivision and development appeal board. And we are actually presenting those draft agreements and bylaws to you later in this meeting. In March, our department received 3 FOIP requests. One request ended up being withdrawn in early April, and the other 2, one is complete and one I'm hoping to have completed at the end of this week. Our Legislative Services Clerk has created a new council resolution registry and compiled all council resolutions going back to 2006 into one list. This registry is updated with all new resolutions following council adoption of meeting minutes and is available to all staff on our internal hub page, just to make it easier for searching. Our Records Management Coordinator and Legislative Services Coordinator started building a new contract and agreement registry, which is almost done. We are optimistic that it will be ready soon, and again, will be available on our main hub for ease of access, tracking, and searching for our staff. The Legislative Services Clerk started the arduous process of creating a land use bylaw registry and is actually done. And one last thing that is not in this report that our department did do during the first quarter is we did provide clerk services to the town of Elk Point for one of their subdivision and development appeal board hearings, which just ended up spanning over two different days. And that is it for my department, if there's any questions.
Councillor Scarson?
So is this list of compiled council resolutions from 2006 available to council as well?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. We just have it on our hub page. I'm not sure if council has access to the hub pages.
I
But
don't believe that we do.
it's not a document. It's built into the SharePoint site itself. So I'd have to work with IT to see if we can get you guys access, but I don't see that being a particular issue.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, Councillor Fadeo?
Ms. Severin, so what do you mean by started building an LU bylaw registry?
So right now, our registry of bylaws is a binder with everything
Okay.
handwritten. And so last year, we created a digital registry in Excel of our regular bylaws, and over the first quarter, we started and were able to successfully complete the same process for our land use bylaw, which was just a little bit more, it was a little bit more work intensive because we did have to end up scanning in all of the bylaws. With the regular bylaws, we were able to just pull them out of Laserfish, whereas the land use bylaws, we had to scan them all in individually as well, and then enter that metadata for each bylaw.
Perfect, thank you.
CEO?
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. To Councillor Scarson's question, we certainly can provide the council resolutions. We went back, we were bumping into resolutions of council from years and years and years ago that had never been complied with or implemented. We had a couple there that were head scratchers, but we were using administratively to make sure we went back far enough to make sure that administration was implementing the motions of council from whenever. We absolutely can figure out how to get that list to council as well. There's no issue with that at all. We'll figure that out.
Well, how do you, like, where do you build the action report or whatever from?
That's a report that we export from eScribe, actually, because we create those tasks specifically in eScribe. And so we pull that report every 2 weeks, and then we update our master spreadsheet with any changes, and then add any of the new tasks from the meetings that have occurred since the previous time we pulled the report.
And going as far back as 2006 was not eScribe. It was just,
Yes,
there
no,
were
that
motions
was,
just in council minutes that had never been
Yeah.
that had not been, that had not been dealt with, going literally back to '06. And I think we arbitrarily chose 2006 just at some point. How
I
far
think
back do you go?
We chose 2006 because that was where, going any further back, we could still absolutely do it. It was just, it became more of a manual process of typing in each separate resolution, whereas I think at this point we were able to kind of find a way to copy and paste the information from the minutes document into the Excel spreadsheet, whereas if we were to go further back, we certainly could, but it would be manually typing every single resolution of council.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Stephanie. All right, I guess we're just looking for a motion then. Okay, thank you, Councillor Fadeev, for moving that council accepts the CAO Office 2024 first quarterly report as information. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. We'll move on to 9.5.2, Citizen Engagement Policy Amendment.
So this policy came up for scheduled review back in 2023. Administration prepared an amending draft for consideration. So having a public participation policy is required under Section 216 of the Municipal Government Act and must comply with the Act as well as the Public Participation Policy Regulation. We made proposed amendments to the policy to be in compliance with the regulations and then standardize the formatting of the document. So the Committee of the Whole reviewed this amending policy on February 20th and again on April 16th with some additional amendments as requested by the committee. And on April 16th, the committee passed a motion recommending that council adopt the amending policy as presented. Administration's recommended action is that council adopts amended policy number C-2A.024, Public Engagement Policy, formerly known as Citizen Engagement Policy, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole.
Okay, looking for a motion here. Okay, thank you, Councillor Fadeev, for moving that council adopts amended policy number C-2A.024, Public Engagement Policy, formerly known as Citizen Engagement Policy, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 9.6.1, purchase of land.
Good afternoon, Deputy Reeve,
Good
members of
afternoon.
council. I have an RFD for the purchase of land at Northeast 5, 61-8, west of the 4, the new Glendon Grader Shop. The approved 2024 capital budget had a line item in it for the purchase of a Glendon Grader Shop. Administration discussed with council a parcel of land that straddled the MD and Village of Glendon boundaries and found that it was suitable for infrastructure services needs. Section 72, sub 1A and B of the Municipal Government Act requires the Village of Glendon to approve the purchase and the MD to authorize the purchase. Administration has received a resolution from the Village of Glendon Council to approve the MD purchasing the lands, and that's in Appendix A. The MD needs to authorize the purchase of the lands through a council resolution as per the MGA. Reference to provincial legislation is the Municipal Government Act, Section 72, sub 1A and B. Funding is in the 2024 capital budget. Communication will be via the council minutes posted on the MD website. And it's administration's recommendation the council approves the purchase of the property located within Northeast 05 6108 west of the 4th Meridian in the Village of Glendon municipal limits.
Thank you. Just looking for a motion. Counselor Kriviak? Okay. Thank you, Counselor Kriviak, for moving that council approves the purchase of property located within Northeast 561-8 west of the 4th in the Village of Glendon municipal limits. Any discussion on the motion? You guys can argue next council meeting about who got that one in the minutes. All right, we'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
All right, 10, correspondence and information.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve and members of council. There's about 14 pieces of 15, I guess, correspondence in the council action report. There are several invitations in there. Some are while council is away at the FCM, but there is the invitation from the Bonnyville Outreach School for the open house barbecue, the business mixer networking event for the Cold Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce, Lakeland Co-op's 40th anniversary supper and annual general meeting, I guess that's about it. And number 13 on the list was a letter from the Village of Glendon, RE the land purchase. That's their approval of us purchasing property inside the Village of Glendon.
Okay. All right, looking for a motion. Okay, thank you, Councillor Kriviak, for moving that the following correspondence, 1 to 16, be received as information. I believe that's what it should be. There we go. Yeah. All right, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. All right, council action, oh wait, no, sorry. Reports from members of council. Who'd like to go first? Okay, we'll start on this side and work our way around.
Sure, pretty quiet for committees, myself, just I had a attendance at the meet and greet in Cherry Grove, and also yesterday's meeting with the tourism minister. It was kind of different. I felt somewhat optimistic. So the words being used by the minister was we're pushing on a door that's open. I still think there's a lot of challenges to be involved there with Canusu and some of the expansions that we want to make, but we'll see where that takes us, and they're going to give us an answer within the first few months. And I'd like to really thank CEO Hogan and Ms. Esther Kienbaugh and Councillor Slipchuk and Councillor Swagger for being there as well. So felt optimistic. We'll see what happens.
Right on. Okay, I had Northern Lights Library Board meeting Wednesday last week. Yeah. I guess the one key thing from that is that they're planning for a 1.5% increase in the levies year after year, just to kind of keep up with inflation, even though that's maybe not quite keeping up with inflation. So for the staff, if you're taking notes, you can just be prepared for budget for the Northern Lights Library System. That'll be a 1.5% levy increase every year. And then we had a BRFA meeting. The BRFA hired a new regional training officer, training and fire prevention officer. We were introduced to him. His name is Joe. Seems like a great guy. And the BRFA also picked up a small dispatch contract with the County of Vermilion River for their peace officer. And then we had a short in-camera discussion to do with the AHS contract. That's it for me for the last couple weeks.
You kind of took my notes from the BRFA.
Well, sorry about that.
I just wanted to add, I guess, that County of Vermilion River dispatch contract came via Chris Garner, who used to be an employee here, so that was good of him to reach out, and it could lead to more there as well. So, other than that, yeah, I got a couple coming up next week, but that's all the meeting I had. So.
Councillor Slipchuk.
I got nothing really to report, except I just want to remind everyone on Friday is the May 31st of the 4-H sale and show and sale here at the Ag Grounds. So, if anybody's listening, or everybody can come out and support it.
Counselor Kubiak?
That's it? Okay, I had just had the lodge meeting. Cold Lake demos are supposed to be done by September of this year. In Bonnie Lodge, there's some structural issues. In one place, the floor is separating, so that'll be done by March of next year. Cold Lake has only 7 vacancies, Bonneville 14. The rest, I went to, on the 16th, to Vishavanka Day. It was an awesome event, nice turnout. And I also went to the Public Works Open House. That's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Okay, just looking for a motion to go in closed session then. Okay, thank you, Counselor Slipchuk, for moving that we'll go into closed session. I'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you.